kill the brain and you kill the ghoul.
Welcome back, boils and ghouls, and thanks for joining us once again as we chat about all things horror. Today we'll be trying out a new format that will hopefully become a standard for the weekly show. We really appreciate everyone's patience and for sticking with us as our little group of horror nerds navigate the best and most entertaining way to share our love and passion of horror with you. So the new format is basically going to be, we're going to go through some news and updates, and then we're going to do a roundtable discussion of things that we have been into, like a recap and review. So let's get started. So Jasper, what movie news do you have for us?
The first movie news, which I only found out about today, is Blumhouse and Lionsgate have joined forces for a brand new The Blair Witch Project. The director for the 2016 Blair Witch film has been asked to come back for this movie as well.
It's like a reimagining, right? Like going back to the beginning.
The very first one, yes. Yeah. They want to give people who aren't aware of the original movie a chance to see it, but updated, I guess. I'm on the bench about this. I'm half excited, I'm half not, because I don't know if anybody knows. Well, you guys definitely know that Blair Witch is my favourite movie of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Yeah.
We also have...
definitely a classic. Yeah, I feel like Lionsgate's just given up on making like new movies, like new ideas. Is this all they do now? They just reboot franchises they own the rights to?
I think they're definitely jumping on the remake bandwagon a little bit.
It's the reboot, reimagining. Like every bit of news I've heard from them recently is, hey, we're redoing this. It's a reimagining. And I like to feel like the word reimagine is going to take the sting out of, tainting something classic. Like, I'm not super...
Right, like we're going to tell the story over again.
Yeah.
The original Blair Witch is such a cult classic. Like that's a student film, that just made it big. It's like the true success story. And then when you read the BS that those guys that made this movie had to go through, like getting shorted on pay. Like Lionsgate really screwed these kids over. Like and they weren't part of SAG. They were just students at the time.
Well, not to forget what they actually went through on set. When they're craving cigarettes, they actually were craving cigarettes. When they were craving food, they actually were craving food.
But that was them. That was their vision. That's what they went out to do, right? When the product was sold, and you could argue that, okay, they sold that product, right? So it's no longer theirs, and that's the reality of it. But like that's the beauty of why that movie is so important and so good, right? Because they went through all this, but it was on their own accord to make this little low-budget indie masterpiece, and that's what it is now, right? This cult masterpiece.
With cinema the way it is these days, they're not going to put actors through what they did 20, 30 years ago. There's no way.
Oh, yeah.
And so to have a reimagining of the Blair Witch and today, I don't know if they can pull off the same vision, the same energy. You're right in saying that it is a cult classic. Before Blair Witch, the only found footage horror we had was Cannibal Holocaust. Cannibal Holocaust is the great-grandfather of found footage, but
that's right.
It didn't send it into, there wasn't
it didn't trend.
It didn't trend the genre. Yeah. Then the Blair Witch came out, and then suddenly we have 12 Paranormal Activity movies, they kickstarted that trend, so
what bugs me about this one here, and specifically Lionsgate, is there was an article that one of the core creators, like the original film students that helped bring that film to life, has said is that since they didn't have lawyers, they were just kids, and when they sold that film, Lionsgate has been using their likeness and making subsequent movies, which they completely plan to do in this new one, and haven't paid them a penny for it. And because they had no contract, and Lionsgate's got huge lawyer teams. I don't know. It's just all skeezy to me.
It's super skeezy.
It dampens any excitement I might have about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, just fingers crossed, Next up, and I know everybody here is going to be super excited. Does anybody know what's happening on the 26th of this month?
No.
It's Alien Day, and to celebrate Alien Day, the original Alien film is going to return to movie theaters for Alien Day globally. So make sure you get your tickets. Phone every cinema, find out if it's being released there to watch. So I will admit, 4 years ago, it was the first time I watched The Godfather. But because it was the anniversary of The Godfather, I got to have my first experience of watching it at the cinema as it was released like 40 years ago, right?
So cool.
So, I'm quite excited for people that haven't seen the genre and see this poster or advertisements for Alien, like, that looks interesting, I'm going to go see it. And then it creates this new surge, new popularity for the older movies. Mm-hmm. And I really hope that's something that happens on Alien Day. I'm very excited. I am going to look for a cinema near me to watch it.
Yeah. No, I'm super pumped for that. And I feel like, so that movie's before my time, but it was one of my earliest favorite movies where, like, I was taking note of actual cinema. Like, that movie is beautiful. Like, just the scenescapes and stuff that Ridley Scott's able to pull off, and he was very much like a very visual director. So I've never had a chance to see that movie in the big screen. It's like at the echelon of not horror or sci-fi, of like best movies of all time. Like,
yeah,
that's, it's just, that movie's a masterpiece, and I would love to see that in like an IMAX with the sound and just a big screen. God, yeah. I'm super, super excited for that.
I mean, I think it's worthwhile looking up anniversaries for movies that you like, because I remember
Dawn of the Dead just had their screening. I don't know if anyone was able to catch that.
No,
40th anniversary of Dawn of the Dead.
The anniversary for Blair Witch Project a few years ago, I did catch that. So I got to see that on the big screen. And that was probably one of the best experiences I've ever had. So I'm definitely getting a ticket for Alien to see it on the big screen for how it was when it released 45 years ago. God, 45 years ago, when you watch it, you don't even think it's been that long since it released, because it was such an advanced movie for its time.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely groundbreaking, right? See, I know you're a huge Alien fan. Are you going to try and check out the anniversary re-release in the theaters?
So I looked on their websites, because like I was talking to you guys before, I'm trying to get to the movies this week sometime while I have a little bit of time off. And after that was mentioned, I did a little bit of research digging to see if any of the movie theaters were going to be hosting it here, and I can't find one that is. I don't know if it's a select city or what, but the main theater that's closer to my place doesn't look like, at least from what I can see, they're not posting anything. They haven't marketed anything about it. So I don't know, but if they do, absolutely.
I know in my immediate area, there's no one advertising it, but there's this little movie theater downtown that they'll do classic movies, even like when there's nothing big happening. Every so often, they'll just do like their own thing,
right?
And they're advertising like a big event for it. So,
that's great.
That's perfect.
Yeah.
Excellent.
That sounds cool. Yeah. Well, speaking of reboots and reimagining, the producers of the 2022 Hellraiser reboot stated that they were in talks with David Bruckner for a possible sequel. Which, so I liked that movie, but so I loved, I would say, 30% of it, right? And then kind of was indifferent about a chunk, and then there was parts of it that I absolutely hated. But none of the creative, the things that most people would think, oh, you're a big Hellraiser fan, that must have really bugged you. All of those core Hellraiser things about it I loved. They're different from everything I grew up loving, but they were done in such a beautiful way. The Cenobites and like instead of the black leather and chains, which I'm an 80s kid, so black leather and chains is always a big win for me. but that concept of like the skin, the cut skin being the clothes, and the designs of the mutilated flesh being like the design of the character, I thought that was mind-blowing. The Leviathan stuff, the design in this, like the concept design, is what really blew me away, how well it was done. So I feel like with the shortcomings, with all the voices being heard, and I think overwhelmingly most people liked it, but everyone had the same complaints. Too much human drama, and it was boring as hell. Not the movie, but the human drama, and there was so much of it.
Really
no one
was,
cared,
yeah.
Right?
Can confirm.
Yeah, for sure, right? But the cool things were amazing. So I am hoping for a sequel to this. I'm hoping for a trilogy. Shit, give me 10. I don't care. Because they put so much work. Those designers put so much work into creating those Cenobite characters, to creating that world of Leviathan behind the scenes. It would be such a shame for this writing room of douchebags to have ruined all of that for the future, because of those slow parts in the movies. And I really hope that they learn from that and speed up the tempo and kind of have this slow slaughter throughout the whole thing, rather than saving it for just chunks, or at least just make more interesting human characters. That would be good too. But I'm excited for it because it'll bring us back to that world, and I'm excited for it because it'll give those designers, those creature designers and set designers, another shot at showcasing this world that they built. I think it's really cool.
I'm very excited for this. I did enjoy the new Hellraiser. At first, when it was advertised, I was like, "Oh, this, I don't know. I don't like change. Please, like, no." But I watched it, and I really did enjoy it. I thought I came away from it thinking that was a good movie. So I'm excited as well, man.
Me too. I've watched it a few times since it was released, and I could almost watch it now, just fast forwarding through the boring parts, because the good parts are just so good, right? For anything that came out that year, the visuals in that movie, I think, were the top, and it is a shame that the boring, slow parts weighed it down so much and really had nothing to validate it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, speaking of...
go ahead.
Speaking of another remake, have any of you ever watched the 2003 movie Old Boy?
Yeah, I know the movie. Old
Boy from 2003? Just to kind of maybe warm up your brain a bit with it. A man held captive for no apparent reason for years is given a cell phone, money, and expensive clothes and released. Unless he finds out the identity of his captor, an even worse fate awaits him. It's a popular movie in Korea and even in the Western side as well. It's highly regarded in the horror community for sure. This movie is actually being... This movie's actually been adapted for a small television show by Lionsgate and the original director of the movie from 2003. So I'm looking forward to this because the movie itself was fantastic, but to be able to see that movie and have it fleshed out more and say a 9-part show, because it is Lionsgate that's doing it, so I think it could work out pretty well. I don't know, what's your thoughts on that? Lionsgate, but the original director, if it was...
It's still Lionsgate, rebooting something that they own, which is getting overly frustrating from the same house. But I do like the idea of, the original creative team kind of doing it, because that happens sometimes, right? Where even with people who are big now, they look back at some of their old movies that we consider to be classic, and they're like, "Oh, I would have done this. I would have done this differently if I knew what I knew now. I wish I had a chance to go back and do it again." Right? And there's something to be said for, a classic is always a classic. But like I do get that, and I think it's kind of cool to have the creative people that were involved in the first one, as long as there's not too much studio meddling, which is usually the case with anything Lionsgate, right? Like they have a bunch of money people's hands in the pot of every project. That's why a lot of creative people end up walking away from the mid project, because it becomes unbearable, and then they don't want to have their name attached to whatever the end result could be.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, this sounds like a perfect time for me to jump in, because we're talking about 2003, which was a great year for movies. So also 2003, 28 Days Later, directed by Dan Boyle, written by Alex Garland, one of the top British zombie movies that have ever come out. I would say top zombie movies of all time. We all know about the sequel to that, which was 28 Weeks Later, that came out in 2007. So the news that I have for this one is we've just found out that a sequel to 28 Days and 28 Weeks called 28 Years Later has been confirmed by going back to the original 2003 film by Danny Boyle, and it's going to be written again by Alex Garland. One of the cool things about this one is they're looking at, there's been a lot of news on it, but it's not actually attached to a studio yet, at least to my knowledge, but all the news has come out that's saying it's planning on being a trilogy, with the first of the trilogy being 28 Years Later. So you can imagine it's going to be a huge time jump. Yeah, no, it's. I'm really looking forward to it. I'm kind of curious, especially when you look at how 28 Weeks Later ended.
Yeah,
how 28 years is going to unfold, right? Because if you look at 28 days, by the time they got to 28 weeks, for the most part, they had cordon cities. They were going house to house, reclaiming territory. Like, it was under control.
Right.
And then they end 28 Weeks Later with that not weird, but like the camera pan of the rage virus making its way to mainland Europe. So yeah, I'm really pumped to see kind of where they take this one and how well they have the people in it fare over the
that
course
news
of
came
28
out
years.
like so fast. Like, this movie isn't even out. It's not in post production yet, right? Like, because we were talking about it on the servers. Like, holy hell, they're making a new 28, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's big news. It's been a long time. That franchise was killer, right? Like we talk about like groundbreaking moments in film, like when genres change and whatever. I feel like 28 Days was one of those movies. 28 Weeks was a fantastic follow-up, and then we have this long stretch, and now 28 years later, like, I was pumped for it, but like, we don't even have solid casting news, and they're already talking about a trilogy, which is kind of mind-blowing, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, I wouldn't say it's unprecedented, right? But it's definitely, to get this news that it's been planned out so far with the original writer and director of the original movie. But, they can't say what studio it's going to be part of. They don't have any idea, or they haven't given us any idea of what the cast looks like yet. It's, It's kind of crazy.
Like, it's all like super pre-production, like pre-production right now. But I do love that they're so confident in whatever story they're putting together. They're like, no, this needs to be told over 3 movies. So going from 22 years ago or 21 years ago, the first movie and then a second movie in this huge stretch, and it's like all of a sudden it's going to be a 5-movie franchise. That's wild. I'm down for it, like, especially if it's that original creative team. I think it could be really cool. But
oh yeah, and I think going back to their roots is definitely going to do them justice to make sure that the story gets told in the proper way. You do run into those issues sometimes where when people come back and make sequels, they don't have the same kind of feel as the original. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this one. So the next thing that I had now is 2 of 2 for me today with movies. But so the Soska sisters, you guys are all aware, they just released a movie on April 5th called Festival of the Living Dead, which is described by them as a direct sequel to the original 1968 classic Night of the Living Dead. That movie was great. We streamed it on the Discord through Tubi the day it came out. We had a bunch of stuff posted on X and Instagram about it. the Soska sisters actually messaged us back, thanking us for it, which was incredible. Like you don't really see that very often.
Sure.
That movie was pretty neat. Its take was it was years after the original, Rise of the Dead, and they were commemorating the survival of that original kind of apocalyptic scenario through a festival, right? So they had, bands playing, everyone was drinking beer. It was like a normal festival that you would have nowadays, but it was to commemorate them surviving the original 1968. And then, of course,
cool concept, right?
Yeah, it was great. And then, in zombie fashion, everything went crazy. And but it was a pretty good film. Unfortunately, I was looking at IBDM, and the overall rating on it, I don't think is doing it justice. For the creative
I think people
that they took with it, yeah.
I think for the people that jumped on that were one, Soka Sister fans, and two, into indie movies that kind of knew what they were going to get into. I think it's widely appreciated in that group, right? But there's people that live outside of the genre that we kind of sit in, right? Like if the horror genre was a big mud pile, there's people that stand on the edge and kind of look in or stick their toe in, and then there's people like us who are swimming in it, right?
Yeah.
So I think those people around the edge that are watching this from the outside just thinking, oh, new zombie movie, oh, new Night of the Living Dead world movie or whatever. I think they were expecting something else. Sorry?
I was going to say, I wouldn't worry too much about the rating because I've noticed that horror rating seems to be different from every other genre. I found that if anything's above a 4 out of 10, it's good. If it's below 4, then it's not too good,
Yeah. I don't trust really anyone, anyone that critiques horror. It could be a 10 out of 10 or a 1 out of 10. No one can judge movies for me. I love some of the trashiest movies out there. So, I usually think that Joe Bob's got a pretty good perspective on it, and but that's about it, right? Most people out there aren't qualified to judge, especially not just horror, but indie horror is a whole other subgenre onto itself. So I really liked it. I thought they did a good job. I love their passion. They talked up their love for Romero throughout the whole thing, right? Through all their promotion and stuff. And watching it on the server, because we kind of made a day of it, right? We were talking about it on the socials, we were talking about it in the Discords, kind of going back and forth through the Soska sisters socials. And then on the Cold Dead Heart server, we did, at the end of the Friday movie marathon, we did Night of the Living Dead. And we actually did 2 of them, the black and white and then the remastered color version back to back. And then for the Friday Withers zombie movie night, we did, the new one that's, supposed to be a direct sequel to that. So, maybe it was the vibe, of the whole day that we made the experience out of it that made me appreciate even more. But I've watched it again since, and I just really liked it. I like their style, and I thought that they killed it for an indie horror.
Oh, absolutely. And anybody,
I think they did such a fun job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. No, totally. It was, and it was like a fun. It was a fun. It felt kind of like. I felt watching it kind of like I did the first time I watched Survival of the Dead, right? It kind of gave me those vibes. And part of me kind of thinks that maybe that was the Romero ballpark that they were going for, in terms of film and cinematography. But I really liked it. Double high fives to the Soska sisters. If anyone doesn't know them, they're the director of, a couple of good indie horror movies, but American Mary.
Including
if you've
Rabid.
never seen American Mary, that's and Rabid, yeah, for sure. But a couple of movies definitely to check out.
Yeah, and if anybody listening does take stock of ratings, piss off with this one and go watch it because it's not being done justice quite yet. So, but that wraps it up for me with movie stuff. So, G, do you have anything?
I only have one I really wanted to talk about, and that's Abigail that comes out this week.
Yes.
I'm so excited for it. And, in a sea of like nun stuff and Catholic horror, I'm so excited for like a vampire ballerina. Like, that just sounds great to me. And it makes it even better on a personal note. My mom and I are going to go see it, and she is so much fun to watch movies with because her reactions to things are so over the top. Like, it is not unlike her to get startled and just throw the entire thing of popcorn.
Oh my goodness.
So it's awesome. I cannot wait to go see it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I've heard the reviews are really good, like the pre-reviews and screening reviews. Like, people are loving it. And it's described as kind of like a fun action horror, which is the vibe that I got, right?
Yeah.
You know what I don't hear a lot of people mention, though, for this, even in the promotion, and I've gone back to look to make sure I wasn't, I didn't misunderstand something, but it is true. In this movie, Abigail is... Like, does anyone know, like, in vampire lore, the name Abigail?
No.
Okay, so that girl, the little girl ballerina vampire in the movie, is actually Dracula's daughter.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
yeah, and that's not like a spoiler. That was... Yeah, it was in the original solicitation, but like, I don't hear anyone mention it anymore. And all the articles that pop up, like, you would think it would be like the main tagline, and I was like, did I misread that or something somewhere? Like, are they not talking about it anymore? I went back to the solicitation, and it's still there. So it is like the actual Abigail, that is Dracula's daughter in the movie. So
yeah,
and that just adds another layer of cool to it. In my
opinion. Right on their wiki, it's based on a reimagining of the 1936 Universal classic monsters film Dracula's Daughter.
Yeah,
go figure.
There you go. Yep.
It's exciting. I'm also really looking forward to seeing how the cast plays out because they've got some amazing people in it, including like Giancarlo Esposito, Kevin Durand, Dan Stevens, like some really heavy hitters.
No, for sure. Yeah, and again, and the reviews have been good. And it was one that I kind of had like a sneaking suspicion because it feels very much almost like a more serious like Reinfeldt type movie, like with the action, less comedy, more horror. And Reinfeldt, I thought, was fantastic. And it bombed. It's considered a failure, a box office failure. And, to be fair, I never saw it in the theater, but I watched it when it came out on streaming. And that movie was a hoot. Like, it was gory as hell. And, there was some classic movie monster scenes in it. And I thought it was funny. I don't know. And I'm kind of getting a more serious Reinfeldt vibe from this one. But,
more murdery.
But yeah, the reviews are good. Yeah, more murdery. Yeah, a little bit more on the serious horror side, but still fun. And more David Bruckner news. So in addition to being in talks for a sequel to the 2022 Hellraiser, he's also heading up the remake of The Blob, which I know this is a sore spot for you, man. But so what the news that came out was in an interview, and it wasn't an interview about The Blob, it was just a general talk. He said that he will be honoring a special focus on honoring the practical effects that made the 80s film so fantastic, and they're really going to minimize any CG that they use, which, if anyone knows the 80s Blob remake, like the practical effects in that are just fantastic, right? So yeah. I love that he's taking, and I feel like Bruckner's kind of a practical effects guy. He uses CG in really smart ways, almost like a James Cameron kind of way to emphasize or highlight the practical effects, but not sacrificing them. So I think that could be pretty cool.
Yeah,
I know you're not happy. I know you're not happy about a Blob remake, but I think it might be cool.
I'm gonna watch it, and I give everything its due course for sure. I just, at a certain point, how many remakes is there enough remakes?
They should have stopped right before The Crow.
Never enough.
But I trust Bruckner. He's one of the few people that when I hear his name, like I'm like already sold, right? Like,
and this is okay. All right.
Heading up that.
I just have to throw this out there, and this is a little bit nerdy of me, but I remember taking a bunch of like courses on the classics, a million years ago when I was in college, and in it talked about like the Latin stories that we were reading were retold over and over and over again by different authors, and they made slight changes. And I'm just thinking about that now as we're talking about all of the reboots, and I'm like, wow, humans have been doing this for like thousands of years. Like, we're just telling the same stories.
It's so true, though. Yeah, like, especially when we talk to classics, like, there are people that go back to the stories of, like, mythology, and they're like, you can trace basically any story that comes out of the human brain can be tied to like aspects of old stories that are part of folklore or mythology and stuff like that. There's universal stories that, and not to say that people aren't creative and come up with these wild ideas, but there's anchors in them that can be, tied back through threads to the stories that we've been telling for thousands of years, right? Which is interesting. But more to your point, yes, retelling the same stories over and over again seems to be a common thread.
All right, Jasper, you have some movies for us?
If Ken has any more, but I have a few I could rattle off.
Go.
That are.
Oh, I've got a couple more too. We can go back and forth.
Yeah. So, okay, I don't know about you, but I don't think I've heard this before. Japanese horror slasher. I don't really know many Japanese slasher movies, but on last week on Tuesday, April 16th, there's a new movie that came out on demand called Love All Tears Apart. This movie is about a young woman who's grappling with her traumatic past. As she ventures into new romantic relationships, Wakaba realizes she is being followed by a relentless masked murderer. This mysterious killer targets anyone who dares to get close to her, turning her quest for love into a fight for survival. I think this is it's like such an interesting concept. Imagine somebody trying to fall in love and this serial killer just comes up. Like, no, you're with me. Just kills anybody in our path, So I'm definitely going to watch this this week and get back to you next week about what I thought about it.
Oh, yeah, that sounds
can't wait
really
to hear.
Cool.
I'd be excited to see if I need to watch it.
Absolutely. There was one, and I actually don't know if any's heard about this. It's called Disappear Completely.
No, and you were telling me about it today, though. It sounds cool.
Yeah, it's a Spanish movie. It came out on Netflix on the 12th of April, and the concept sounds really cool. I did watch the trailer, and it looks fantastic, so I'm definitely... This is another one I have to watch. The synopsis is, after visiting a crime scene, an ambitious and insensitive tabloid crime photographer falls victim to a mysterious illness that makes him lose his five senses one by one. Like, again, I feel like there's a lot of movies coming out, and they're straying from the conventional movies that we've had. Like, it feels like there has to be strict rules for this is how a movie plays out. The bad guy loses, and it's the woman wins, and like
you do see every so often these brave like creators that are trying to break that mold, and it doesn't always work. But when it does, it's always like a fun talking point afterwards, right? It sits with you because it conflicts with a pattern you have in the brain, which is pretty cool.
I think if done right, absolutely. What's that movie? Eden Lake. Right. I don't know if any... Okay.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil it for anybody who's listening. If you haven't watched it, please go watch it. But with that ending, they strayed away from how movies should end. And because of that, I will not... Right, secondly, I will never watch that movie again because of how much it tore me up. But I've only watched that movie once, yet it's still branded so severely into my mind that it gives me shivers when I think about it.
Isn't that special? Like, it's so special when that can happen, right?
Yeah.
When a movie can, like, burn its way into you.
And I feel like that type of movie is becoming more prevalent now than it's ever been, and I'm just really excited to hear about what's going to come out in the next few years and see all these directors take a leap of faith that I know will be worth it. They'll create that same imprint in thousands. Yeah.
It's all about money, right? Like, the more that weird and out of the box movies make, the more people talk about them and get other people to go see them, the more successful they are, the more willing studios will be to give these weird directors and stuff a shot. Sebastian Vanek is a really good example, right? His movie Infested, the movie that actually Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell first, made their decision to give him the reins to the next Evil Dead movie. It just had its first screening that went crazy well. The reviews are supposed to be really, really good. It's called Infested. And he's like one of those out of the box, weird, like, French movie directors, right? But, like, right into horror. And, like, for him to come out with this strange French indie movie, and Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell are like, oh, we need this guy, right? We need this guy to take the helm for the next one. And they just gave him complete control, which is fantastic. Whenever a director has complete control, I always feel a lot more comfortable with it, especially if it's a franchise that I like.
Yeah, but, absolutely.
Yeah, it's cool when directors can do that, and it pays off sometimes, right?
Yeah, and there's one more, and I'll hand it off to you, Ken. There's another. Speaking of, taking that leap of faith and giving the directors the reins, there's a movie coming out tomorrow called All You Need Is Death. It's about a young couple who are traveling around Ireland, who are part of a secret organisation that try and discover forbidden knowledge. They believe that living modern alchemy is contained in old forgotten songs. So they're traveling around Ireland trying to hear old songs from many years ago that people might know that might incite, certain rituals or bring certain spirits
about. That's cool. So that's like Irish folklore kind of tied into like a pseudo horror movie. That sounds really cool.
It sounds very irresponsible.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. It's like you're why not just set a Ouija board on fire while you're at it? But that's it for me. A lot of good stuff coming out, and I'm very excited.
Oh yeah, it's been a good couple of weeks. We heard a while back that Maggie Gyllenhaal was set to write and direct a film called The Bride, like a take on the classic 1935 The Bride of Frankenstein film. So we actually just got the full synopsis. So let me read this to you guys, and I want to hear your thoughts. Okay. A lonely Frankenstein travels to 1930s Chicago to seek out the aid of Dr. Aforus in creating a companion for himself. The two reinvigorate a murdered young woman, and the bride is born. She is beyond what either of them intended, inciting a combustible romance, the attention of the police, and a wild and radical social movement. What the hell is this movie supposed to be?
I mean, yeah.
Where are we going with this movie, and how fucking long is it going to be? Don't get me wrong, I'm excited for it. I'm a little conflicted with some of the images that we've seen. It looks like that Christian Bale is playing Frankenstein in this. And I think he's a fantastic actor, a method actor, so it's going to be really interesting to see how he takes on Frankenstein. The look is throwing me a little bit. It looks like whoever designed the new Frankenstein was the same guy they used to design the new Crow in the Crow reboot. A little tatted up for 1930s, monster, but Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, it sounds cool. I have no, like, my brain has no pocket to put that description into, which is neat in and of itself, but...
So, I have a big giant piece of art on my wall, sitting right in front of me right now, that is of Frankenstein, and it says, "I was a teenage Frankenstein." Now, I love the idea of Frankenstein. I think it's such a cool concept, and I love when people, put their own vision into this creature. Like, we just had the release of Lisa Frankenstein, which was it was a horror, comedy, romance all in one, and I thought it was fantastic. I may be a bit biased, but I think I'm looking forward to this. Definitely, I'm a fan of Frankenstein.
Oh yeah, me too. I'm down for all the Universal Monster reimagining reboot stuff. The classic Universal Monsters is like my upbringing into horror. You know what I mean? I've been obsessed with all of these characters since I was a kid, and I love to see these new visions of them coming out. Right? Like, it's cool that they're kind of dominating the upcoming horror market, just to see what some of these visions are going to be. I'm hoping we get some good ones. Nosferatu looks really good. I'm excited for Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. I kind of wish that they had some of these creative teams working together, because it would be kind of cool to have a singular vision for all of them, and instead of them going off in all these different ways, because then there's no real way to tie them together. Not to say that has to happen, but just to watch as a flow, it would be cool. Like, I don't know if you ever do classic monster nights. I do it every so often, where you'll kind of rinse through, your core favorites all back to back. And the old ones, and maybe it's just the black and white, but or the style of cinematography that was just, the style of the time. They have this flow, even Creature, which was done, a handful of years after the core ones were done. It's still kind of like it fits in. It all feels like one outfit almost, right? So I don't think we're gonna get that with any of these new reboots, that uniform to it, but I'm still excited for all of them.
All right, guys, this wraps up movie news. Let's flow into books and comics. Do you have anything for us, Ken?
Yeah, strangely no comic news this week. I have things that I could talk about, because I could talk about comics forever. I will throw out that Creature from the Black Lagoon Lives by Ram V and Dan Waters is coming out next Wednesday, so I'm super pumped about that. But on to actual books. Our buddy Joe Bob from The Last Drive-In is teaming up with Dark Horse Publishing to bring us a book about the making of the 1974 classic, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which sounds really cool. And adjacent to that, Rob Zombie announced that he's working on a book about the making of his first feature film, House of a Thousand Corpses. So both of those actually sound really cool. But Joe Bob jumping into a Texas Chainsaw Massacre deep dive book, I think I'm going to have to read that, 100%.
I'm so ready to give them my wallet for that. Right? Absolutely.
How cool is that? Who knows, horror movies like Joe Bob? So the fact that, I'm kind of hoping that he does a string of these for, core classic horror movies. Wouldn't that be so dope? And Rob Zombie, I'm a fan of. I'm super interested to see how his book plays out. I don't know that I'm as invested as this Joe Bob Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but either way, that's pretty dope.
Sounds super cool. And I pretty much love anything Joe Bob does, so.
Right? Mm-hmm. And he's got such a deep knowledge and love of horror, so that should be pretty interesting. Mm-hmm. You got anything for books?
I do, actually. Okay, so there is a new release, just came out in March, and it's called Fruit of the Dead by Rachel Lyon. And speaking of classic retellings, I'm so excited about this one, and it is the retelling of the myth of Persephone and Demeter set in modern times. And this is not like
cool.
Yeah, this is not like a romance story. This is dark, and I'm here for it. So I can't wait to get my
that
hands on
sounds cool.
it. Mm-hmm.
I saw your post and I didn't have a chance to look into it. I just read the name. I'm like, what the hell?
Yeah.
That sounds very cool.
It does. I'm just really excited about it. I think it's going to be super interesting, and it basically there's a young girl who is swept up in the romance of this middle-aged opiate manufacturing billionaire who takes her to a private island, and her mom, who owns an agricultural company, obviously has problems with that. So that's an interesting spin on things, I think.
That sounds pretty cool. Yeah.
Will you be reviewing it on the CDH server? Because I would like to read it.
Yeah, definitely. I will. And that's about all I had for books. Let's just roll into games. I know you had one you wanted to talk about, Jasper.
There's a couple here. The first one I'm definitely going to jump into. Get your party hats on, because we're celebrating 15 years of the anniversary of the Ju-On the Grudge video game, which came out on Nintendo Wii. The game, basically, you use your controller to hold your torch and go around the map. I think there was 5 maps you could go through, and it was filled with just jump scares from all your favourite characters from the movies. Not only are we celebrating 15 years of the game, it's now 25 years from the Ju-On franchise itself. So, again, put on another party hat. We have another game. This is called Bendy, Secrets of the Machine. This is actually free on Steam for anybody that's interested. It's basically you're exploring a series of rooms and solving puzzles. And these puzzles involve you throwing cans at various objects, which in turn unlock new areas and reveal tidbits of lore from the story. I have downloaded it. I am going to play it this week, and I will get back to you about it. I have one more game.
Sounds cool.
Yeah. I like free horror. What can I say? It sounds interesting.
No, for sure.
We have another loop horror game, and I don't know if you know Anomaly loop horrors at all. It's a loop horror.
I think you had to explain them to me a few months back, but I'm familiar with them.
You might know the PT that came out for Silent Hill, where you're looping through that hallway and objects change every now and then. But in this game, you're looping through up a set of stairways, and you have to observe the surroundings around you, and anomalies are watching and ready to hunt you down. I don't know how you all feel, because loop horror has become oversaturated, but I've been quite excited for this one. It comes out on May 17th. They've definitely set the date for it. So I'm excited to play this one. I feel like, from what I'm seeing, it can definitely be a new take on the loop horror.
What was the name of this one?
Oh, this is The Stairway 7.
Okay, yeah, okay. I'm looking it up right now, and it looks pretty legit.
Yeah, it looks really good. So those are the 3 things I had for horror games.
Thank you so much, Jasper. All right. For me, I'm excited about a release coming out in May called Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. Did anybody play the first one?
I have not, but I know the games you're talking about.
I played it, and it was absolutely incredible. And the nice thing about the second one is that you can pre-install it on your Xbox if you have Game Pass. So I have done that. I'm ready for the 21st.
Yes.
One of the cool things the first one did is it advised the player to wear headphones, because the voices that Senua hears would come from different directions in your headset, and I thought it was a really cool effect. And definitely,
I like that.
Yeah, it gave me the heebie-jeebies. I love it. Other than that, I've picked up. Oh, I'll save that for the roundtable later. All right, so moving on from games, let's talk collectibles. What do you got first, Ken?
All right. Well, NECA announced are you ready for this? A life-size Megan replica doll on April 1st, causing widespread speculation that it was an April Fool's Day hoax. Nope. That thing is real and creepy as hell, and like not in a fun way. It's priced at just under $500 US. Pre-orders are up now on their website. And in far less cringy NECA news, pre-orders are also up for their 7-inch scale Ghostface Inferno edition, planned to ship out next month. So it's basically Ghostface with like a big blowtorch. I love their 7-inch scale figures. I usually stick to either the classic monsters or like the 70s, 80s stuff. But like for anyone super into Scream, like those Ghostface figures look pretty dope.
Yes.
So that could be pretty cool. Yeah, the life-size Megan, I don't know that I want to know anyone who would be spending $500 on that. Or $2 or taking it for free. I don't want to know anyone that wants that in their house. And I collect creepy Puppet Master dolls, so that just seems odd and cringy to me. But more 7-inch scale horror ultimates from NECA. That sounds pretty cool.
So their website has a picture of it next to a person.
Yeah.
So it's over 4 feet tall. So like it's age appropriate and everything. That's insane.
There's something about it I just don't like. Yeah, but I know that movie has like its super hardcore fan base. So I hope there's some reasonable, not creepy people out there that are excited for this.
So I just want to point out with that, one of the frequently asked questions on the website says, is there a limit to how many I can order?
Oh no!
Oh man, could you picture going to someone's house that's got like 30 of those? Now that's probably a retailer, right? Someone with a small hobby shop or some that wants to get like 5 to sell, right?
Yeah, I mean, maybe.
I would assume and I would hope. I would assume and I would hope, but yeah. Either way, like it'd be different if it was like big claw arms or like a scary like monster face or something. I could get on board with that, but this, not so much. It's so not creepy that it's creepy that someone would want it. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, 100%.
That makes sense. Like, I can handle a bunch of creepy stuff around me. You put a doll in front of me, I'm just like, I'm out. No.
I'm the exact same way. Right? Like, I've got, like, the Puppet Master creepy dolls, and, like, I love them. I love them so much. But, like, actual regular dolls freak me the hell out. Like, especially, like, those Victorian style dolls. No, thank you. Not my jam. Gigi, what about you?
So this is not quite horror. I'd call it like horror adjacent because the games do have things like the Dunwich Mining Company and things like that. But the Fallout release has been really exciting, and McFarlane released a 3-pack of 6-inch posed figures from the Amazon exclusive Fallout show, and it's Lucy, Maximus, and the Ghoul.
Perfect. And McFarlane nails those like statuesque figures, right?
He does, and the way that they're posed is really, really cool, super dynamic, and the attention to detail is just like I'm zoomed in on it, and it's blowing me away. Their faces are so expressive, and if they were not completely sold out already, I would instantly be buying them.
That's an Amazon exclusive, you said, right?
It is, yeah.
They'll restock. Give it like 2 months, they'll restock. If you put it on a want list, there should be a button you could click. Yeah, they're pretty good that way, especially with the McFarlane stuff.
Yeah, I've got to get it.
I'm a huge McFarlane fan, so... Yeah, and I feel like they do that stuff in waves, and it's really smart business because you don't know how many people are going to be. There might be a ton of Fallout fans, but only so many of them are going to be interested in a 3-pack of figures.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, someone who's a fan might pass up on it because there's one character in the 3-pack they don't like. So they only produce an X amount for sale, and if those sell quick, right, and it's kind of McFarlane style, when he sees something sell out quick, right, they just put them back into production. Why the hell wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Right? Oh, people want these. Now there's people out there that can't get them because they sold out fast. Make more of them so people who want them could get them. So yeah, I'd put it on your wish list. I'm sure it'll pop back up. His pre-posed figures, man, I know he caught a lot of flack about it from like the collectible market that wants the ultra posable, and his thing was, but you lose sculpt, you lose some of, you lose the art when you engineer something to be posable. So if I'm already going to pose this in the coolest way, and like McFarlane's got an eye for cool, his eye for cool made him a friggin' millionaire rock star, right? He knows what he's doing. He's like, I'm going to pre-pose this in the best way that represents this character for you, without breaking any of the sculpt and messing with the paint. And collectors were like, no, I want to pose it myself. So I like that he's going back to that model. It actually plays into a little bit of my my roundtable as well. That's cool. I hope you get it, G. I'll keep my eyes open for it too.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. All right. So speaking of the roundtable, this is the section of the show, fellow listeners, where we are going to discuss everything that we've watched, read, or collected in the past week, and we would love for you to join us on this. So let's get started with Jasper.
I've not done a whole lot because I do enjoy napping quite a lot. However, I don't know if you remember, I spoke about content warning video game on the last episode. It's similar to Lethal Company. Oh gosh, I played with a friend who was streaming it, so I definitely have a lot of clips of me screaming my ass off and running away. I have to say, I really enjoyed the game. You pick up all your equipment, you go into the ship, and then you're taken down into this grey building where there's just levels and there's monsters everywhere, and you've got to film like the monsters and your friends being eaten by the monsters, and I actually had a lot of fun with it.
That sounds fun.
It's such a fun game, and I think you can have up to like 5 people at a time playing. We had just the 4 of us, and it was hilarious. I had so much fun with it, so I'm really glad that I made the purchase, and it's made me want to get Lethal Company now as well. So
right on.
That's what I did for video games. For movies, now I don't know if any of you have heard this movie called Butchers. Butchers is basically just about this group of like hillbillies in the woods that are cannibals. It's a story we've heard before, but they released their second one. I only know about this movie because now I wish I remember his name, but one of the crew streams Dead by Daylight, and he actually was talking a lot about the fact that he was part of the movie, and he told me quite a lot about Butchers 2 before it came out. And now that it's out, I was like, I need to watch this, and because he was hyping it up quite a lot. So that was on my movie list. I watched it, and I really enjoyed it. The synopsis for it is the movie's called, by the way, Butchers Book 2 Raghorn. And the synopsis is, a car accident leaves the victims in the hands of brutal cannibals who plan to hack them up for meat, which is certainly what they do. It's a lot of good gore, a lot of fun. I certainly enjoyed it. And I think
it's called Painted.
Painted, yeah.
All right. That's cool. Yeah, that sounds really good. I'm going to check that out.
Yeah, there's 1 and 2, and I really enjoyed it for what it was.
They made 2 of them. Holy hell.
Pardon? Sorry, what's that?
You said they made 2 of them?
Yeah, so there was an original movie, Butchers, let me check, that came out in 2020, and then this one, 2024, and it has quite a lot of the returning cast with the cannibals and whatnot. So, cool. It's good. Like, that sounds good. I think maybe you should do a night of just watching those, because I think the people on the server would really enjoy it.
For sure. We should, maybe we could do them back-to-back on a Friday, like a Friday movie marathon day.
Yeah, that sounds excellent. Yeah, definitely. I'd love to hear what you guys think about the movies.
For sure. Shameless Discord plug. The Cold Dead Heart server every Friday afternoon does a 3 to 4, some days 5 horror movie marathon throughout the day, leading up to the Wither Discord server's Friday zombie movie night, which is always a fun party. So anyone listening can check us out on Discord and join along. Free and fun. Doesn't get better than that.
And I actually have one book as well. I signed up for Kindle. Was it Kindle Unlimited?
Yeah, Kindle Unlimited. Yeah, right on.
Because I was kind of doing a bit of research into books. I really do like the splatterpunk genre, and I had a lot of them bookmarked. But then I found they were free on Kindle, so I thought, okay, I'm going to start reading through this list that I've been interested in. So this week, I'm still kind of working through it. I'm nearly finished. It's Night of the Freaks by Harrison Phillips. And the synopsis is, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to William Wilson's wonderful world of the weirdos. A terrifying array of hideous oddities await you behind these doors. Dare you step inside? Come along, don't be shy, but be forewarned, those of you brave enough to enter might not make it out alive. And, oh gosh, okay, there was a few moments in this book where I think I did squeal because of the level of gore that was in it. There was one scene in particular, which isn't a spoiler to the novel at all, would have somebody bound, and at this point we don't know who the killer is in the book. He comes up to him with a hacksaw and starts chomping away at his legs right at the knee. And honestly, that made me squirm, dude. Like, it made me squirm. I've read a few splatterpunk and I have had moments, but I don't know, man. This one got to me. It's definitely worth a read if you're into that genre. You should give this.
We gotta start doing book reviews on the servers too, like we do with movies.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be cool. We don't get enough book talk.
Totally. Like, I mean, I haven't.
Movies and shows and even games, kind of dominate a little bit, but
they do.
The book talk, yeah. So we gotta start reviewing books too.
I have a huge list of splatterpunk that I'm going to be working my way through. I'll probably get 1 or 2 in a week, so I'll be happy to review these. Again, this was Night of the Freaks by Harrison Phillips, and you can buy a hardbook copy for £5.99 or $7.56. There we go, that's right. Or you can get it for free. Yeah, I actually had it up like before the show, like the Great British pounds to dollars. Yeah, like
now convert it into Canadian for me. No, I'm just.
Oh no, please. I'll be here all day.
Cool. Well, make it through that list of splatterpunk, because I have about a list of 300 comics that I'm gonna send you.
Oh yeah. Hell yeah. We'll do a trade off there. You can squeal like me at these scenes in these books.
For sure. Speaking of, we should do a little expose on Red Room. For anyone who doesn't know Red Room, Jasper was reading it. It's a series I like by a creator I like. So we started chatting about it a little bit, but unfortunately last week we lost the creator, Ed Piskor, who's been in the biz, in the guerrilla indie comic market for a long time, and sadly enough was just I think people in the business and people deep into indies have always kind of appreciated him and what he had brought to comics, but sadly we lost him last week, and it was right on the precipice of this huge upswing, I think, in his career, when the wider comic market was starting to take notice of him, and Red Room, I think, was a big reason behind that. I think it's a splatter, gore, or horror masterpiece of a miniseries. So if you like horror comics, I would check that out.
some of the scenes in that comic, he was just a true artist.
Oh yeah, it's holding nothing back, right?
Oh, absolutely. Rest in peace.
So that's some sad news.
Yeah.
So for movies, I finally checked out this movie that I was following production back in 2022 for months and getting so stoked for it, and then leading up to release date, and then it wasn't like anywhere to be found. It never got a theater release. The movie's called Painted in Blood. I'm just gonna read really quick. Malik, an aspiring painter, takes a job as a security guard at an art museum to make extra cash. However, things quickly become terrifying when a figure inside one of the paintings starts speaking to him. So this, like the trailer for this and some of the articles that were done when it was in production really gave me some like artistic Barker-esque vibes. Even like the villain character, it's kind of this interdimensional weird being. It looked really cool, like this really cool low budget indie movie with this super high production value. So I finally found it on Tubi. Tubi saves the day again. And I know we were supposed to do this on the server, and we still can, but I saw it and it was the weekend, and I was like, I found the opportunity. I'm like, I gotta watch this. It was really good. The acting is really good. The production is really good. The story is super good. I feel like it's this almost like a deep dive into the dark side of the tortured artist, kind of like this weird balance between like the starving artist and the tortured artist. And I feel like it had something pretty prevalent to say for about the first 2/3, maybe even the first 3/4. And not to say that it falls off the rails at the end, but I do feel like the momentum of the philosophy of whatever they were trying to get across kind of gets lost towards the end. And not to say that it's not good. Like, I would definitely say check it out. I want to hear some other people's thoughts on this. Painted in Blood. But I do feel like they maybe rushed the end or were running out of money and had to wrap it up. The end doesn't fit the vibe that I got throughout the first, majority of the movie, and it just kind of feels like a rush summed up ending, which is a huge bummer because I was vibing with it, just kind of not waiting for the point, but it was like putting together like a mental puzzle of trying to figure out the point to it, and then I kind of felt like I was left without a point almost. Maybe I missed it. I'm not the smartest dude, but I feel the most likely scenario is that they were running tight on the budget, getting close to the end, and maybe just had to rush some things. But I would definitely recommend it. I do plan on playing it on the server at some point. It's a very cool movie, and the creature design in it screams the Chatterer from Hellraiser. So that's already pre-sell. It's got a lot of blood and cool concepts in it, so I would check that out. In books, this is a mix between both news and personal, because one of my favorite writers, Barbie Wilde, who you might know as the female Cenobite in my favorite horror movie, Hellbound, Hellraiser 2. She is a fantastic horror writer. I've read a bunch of her work, almost everything I think that she's written, and she is phenomenal. And just last week, I think Thursday, she posted on her social account that her new book, I'm going to try and pronounce this, the Silicium Quandra, is now on Amazon. So I heard about it Thursday. It was in my hands on Saturday. I haven't jumped into it yet, but I'm super excited about it. If you know Barbie Wilde, if you like her writing, check this out. It's a super small book. It's like a novella of a mini anthology, 4 short stories all about the female Cenobite character that she played in Hellraiser, which I'm super pumped for. So I got that. Very excited about that. And for collectibles, And shooting back to McFarlane, I was able to find. We were away recently visiting my in-laws, and there's this huge used bookstore in that neighborhood that I try and hit up every time we visit my in-laws. And they have comics and collectibles and all kinds of really cool stuff, and the place is massive. But I randomly found actually flipping through different things on a collectible shelf way in the back, a 2002 McFarlane Movie Maniacs Wishmaster Dijin figure, mint in the box for like $30, which I was super stoked about. That era of McFarlane, I just absolutely adored the paint apps and sculpts, and it was all these classic 80s and 90s horror. I shouldn't say all, but the majority of them. And Wishmaster is one of my favorites, right? Like, it's right up there. That's Peter Atkins' script that is fantastic. One of my favorite horror movies. So I was super stoked to add him into the collection. I haven't opened them up yet. They come in those old, like, sealed clamshells that you actually have to cut open. And it's going to break my heart a little bit when I, like, open it up, because it was one of those figures that when I was, like, a teenager living on my own, like, didn't have money for non-essential stuff, right? It was saving food and lodging, essentially. And I would see these figures, like, get released. And oh man, and it was almost like they were being made just for me. You know what I mean? I know there was a lot of people out there that felt that way. But who the hell makes a Wishmaster Dijin figure, right? Like, that was like mind blowing to me at the time, and it looked so good, and it was like I just couldn't justify spending the money on it at the time. Never mind, I would have nowhere to put it. But to find it now, like for $30, oh man, that was a happy day in Ken's life. But that about sums me up. See, you got anything?
Yeah. So, like most of these weeks recently, I'm rather jam-packed and spread kind of thin, but I have been able to get onto something. So we already mentioned it earlier, the new Fallout TV show. I'm about 5 episodes into that. I believe it's 8 episodes total, so I should be wrapping that up pretty soon. I wasn't really into the universe of Fallout prior to this. It was one of those games I got when I bought my Xbox years ago. It came with it, as like a promotional thing. Started it a little bit, never really played it, and then just this last year I picked the game up, and then with the help of Gigi and Kippy, who we just did the interview with on the tabletop game, I was able actually to beat the game. But I didn't, like, the way I play those games is I don't look for all the cool, intricate things inside games. My brain says,
through, right?
Yeah, my brain is like, if this thing will not help me beat this game, then I don't do it. So that's how I beat the game. And then rewatching the TV show, I'm like, oh man, that place looks familiar. Oh man, I remember something similar to this. So it's kind of reinvigorated my drive to crack that game back open and give it a couple more playthroughs.
That's cool.
Yeah, I think it's
cool that watching the show actually like gave you memories of places in the game and stuff. That speaks volumes to like the crew on the show, that they pulled so deeply from the game.
Yeah, I think they did one of the best adaptations of how things operate. Like you see it with, the Resident Evil remakes, the game to movie, and then now the TV shows that are out. You see it with Silent Hill, which are all pretty good. Like, they're good, but I think this did a better job of kind of bridging that gap between the game and what people enjoyed about it, at least from my limited perspective.
And that's important too, right?
It is.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Fallout fan. I can safely say that I spent years of my life in various Fallout games. In fact, kind of like, I picked up Fallout 4 again, although, my God, I don't know what else I could do in that game. But what's really exciting is Bethesda is releasing some more stuff, I think, later this month for Fallout.
Oh, like expansion packs for the game?
I don't know if it's necessarily expansion packs, but I'll come back around to it. Let's just keep going because I'll find the article.
All right, well, we'll jump to you real fast then, because the only other thing I got that I've been doing this week is book related. So you are all intimately aware that myself and a guy that I served with, started the Wither universe. So we have, the original Wither book. We have the Wither Chronicles, which is a collection of short stories from 16 different authors, you all included. And we tried to open up our I don't know what word I'm looking for. What we wanted to do was and it's evident on the discourse, is we're trying to build like a community-based universe. It's been like a roller coaster ride, being able to find the time to do it and everything. But last year, about this time, we reached out to a guy. He's a veteran, and he was interested in writing a story for us. So he actually finished 2 parts of what is now going to be a trilogy. So I've been editing his first part.
That's
Blackened, yep.
Yeah, right.
So part 1 will be published May 31st of this year. The editing for it, he's a new writer, right? So, and we're new editors. So it's kind of been a work in progress for us, kind of figuring out a good method to that madness. But it's going really well. We are basically done with the editing version, and then we've got to, get it formatted to make sure it fits. Because the way you format everything is it's based on your page count, which will put up how thick your origins are. So like everything's got to be sized, and we can't do any of that until the book is ready to go. So, if it starts, 150 pages, 200 pages, but after editing, it's either shorter or longer, all of that has to be redone, or all of the formatting has to be redone based on the size. So, as far as books go, that's been my life for the past probably month or so. And that's it for me. Yeah, no, it's everything's coming around. So now we're just trying to race to the finish line, which is coming up real quick.
All right.
But
that's cool.
But yeah,
lots of cool stuff coming from the Wither universe.
Yeah, we have a lot. Hopefully, I'll be able to sprinkle some stuff in every week, because we do have a lot coming up. But that's the big one right on my plate right now.
What have you been up to, G?
Well, I guess my weekend was filled with dystopian futures because I went to go see Civil War in theaters, which was incredible. Not quite horror, but like horror adjacent, I guess.
Right.
And then I binge watched the entire Fallout series, which also led me.
You watched the whole thing? Wow.
I watched the whole thing.
Nice.
All of it.
Oh my goodness.
It was amazing. I don't want to give any spoilers.
It yet.
It's so good.
You want to know something funny?
So much, like so much. Sorry, I was just going to say one thing. You know how they did The Last of Us TV adaptation? Mm-hmm. People are comparing Fallout to that. Like,
yes, it's that level.
Because at first I was like, okay, Fallout TV show, I am terrified because being such a huge Fallout fan, I was just like, this can either go up like it did with The Last of Us, or down, way down in the pits,
Yeah,
so
yeah, like Mortal Kombat.
I mean, now that I've heard all the news and I've heard all my friends say nothing but praises, I'll be talking about it next week as well.
Well, one of the funny things, there's like a meme of Leonardo DiCaprio in like a Fallout suit pointing at the TV or something. That was me the entire time we were watching it. Like, I would stop and point, and my husband would look at me and be like, again? Really? And I'm like, but look at the turret! Yeah,
that's funny.
It was incredible. And it also led me to reinstall Fallout 4, which is getting... Alright, so the new updates is Enclave Remnants. So that should get released later in April, which I am super pumped about.
Nice.
Fallout 76... was great, but I could not get into the multiplayer aspect of it. I really hated it, and so I've just been immersed into Fallout 4. I love it.
Right.
I have to admit,
it's so funny. Since this show came out, everyone that I know, I never played Fallout, and I didn't jump at the show. Like, it's not a property that I know of. I might check it out now because everyone's talking so highly of it. But everyone that I know that was Fallout fans, you know, when you have like friends connected to your Xbox and stuff, you turn your TV, it kind of shows you what they're doing, right? Everyone that I know that was Fallout game fans is either watching the show or playing the Fallout 4. Like, every time I turn on my Xbox, is like they're doing one or the other. They're either watching the show or they're playing the game, which I find pretty funny.
One of the things I wish they would fix, and I know there's a mod for it if you play it on PC, but like in New Vegas, you could have your dog with you and a companion, and in Fallout 4, you could only have one or the other. Like, you could have your dog or a companion. But there seems like in the skill trees, for instance, that they didn't intend for that. I don't know. I don't want to speak for them. But it seems like that was not the original idea. And one of the best mods for PC allows you to have both. And it also opens up the map a little bit better for your Pip-Boy. But if they continue to mod Fallout 4, I hope they do that for the Xbox as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like an upgrade.
Oh, and then other than that, I did watch some classic horror. I rewatched From Beyond, which is still amazing. Still amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, I mean, it's a wild ride the entire time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it really is. It's like Reanimator, but ramped up, right? Like, yeah. It's
Reanimator, but like extra sexy and gooey.
Yeah, that's perfect. Exactly.
I like it.
Yeah. And I haven't bought any collectibles, although I've been fantasizing about purchasing different collectibles on Bethesda's website for their gear. One of the things they have is that if you played Fallout New Vegas, outside of Nipton, there's a giant dinosaur. And
yeah.
They have that on their website. It's like $125.
Oh, dude.
Oh, it's not available anymore, but it's so cute.
I'm sorry, I'll never forgive that dinosaur.
Why?
Although it was kind of it was my own fault, because I like to mess around in Fallout New Vegas, because by the time you've done everything, I would just go around and kill stuff. But the dinosaur, you can go in, right, in the shop, there's 1,000 dinosaurs in there. You put the 1,000 dinosaurs, trust me, in your inventory and drop them, it will corrupt your save.
Oh, no.
I did that. I lost it. I had to start again. So yeah, I'll never forgive that dinosaur. He's been playing Fallout 4, but I did reinstall New Vegas. That's my favorite.
Oh, yes.
It's so good.
Oh, New Vegas is hands down my favorite of the entire franchise, which I have spent an obsessive amount of time on, including the role-playing game, which is lots of fun, and I highly recommend. But one of the things... Oh, the stealth suit that you get from one of the expansions for New Vegas. I missed that, and I missed that voice. Like, your Pip-Boy's on. Oh, gee, is it Christmas? Yeah, I mean, like, that stealth suit, I had a small obsession with.
I like it.
All right, dear listeners, we thank you so much from the bottom of our cold, dead hearts. We hope you enjoyed this new format. If you have any comments or suggestions for us, please drop them below, and stay spooky.
Hey, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.